Linda Arbuckle is wonderful. She's a breath of fresh air.
Her studio is out in a lot of vegetation.
I have some pink jacobinia that's just started blooming. It froze back last winter.
So I think vegetation has a lot to do with her work. Plant life, gardens, tendrils, flowers. It's like what she's surrounded with. This very utilitarian work on one hand, very decorative on the other. It's her love of plants, her love of color, and it's all layered together.
It's absolutely uplifting in terms of a joy to look at, and a joy to handle, and a joy to live with.
What about this? What do you think? Is that any good? No? What do you think? It's really good.
She lives in Florida, surrounds herself with birds and chickens and flowers and color, and that's what she loves, and it's in her work. Everywhere you look, it's in her work. So everything about her is colorful in her work. So she was, of course, drawn to male lacquer, which is the most colorful surface that you can get in ceramics, just about.
Linda Arbuckle brings a sense of who she is into her work. She brings a breath of fresh color. She brings it through her palette, and she brings it through her practice. It's pulling this breath of fresh color from the environment around her and from the color that we see in Florida.
And we need some flowers for the table tonight. There's a living space in the middle that's open, so you can see where her environment affects the way that she works. I think her specialty is surface decoration. I call her the queen of decoration. I mean, she can handle a ceramic surface like nobody I've ever seen and work with brushes and pattern. She's very interested in the marriage of form and surface together. While I was at Miami University as a zoology major, I had bumped into ceramics through my work-study job, and I found this medium. And what I loved about ceramics is that you could customize this thing and make it exactly what you wanted to make it, and you could drag it into your domestic life and use it all the time, and it was yours. While I was at Miami University, I was working full-time at the university library, and I gotten married very young and was married for about 5 years, then got divorced, and then had some decisions to make about my life. And one of them was that I'd found this thing that was important to me, that I really wanted to go to art school. And I wanted to go to art school to be a potter. Cleveland Institute of Art has a 5-year BFA program.
When she was in undergraduate school, she had trouble with her hands. She had carpal tunnel, and she had been a thrower, done a lot of throwing. And I said, well, don't throw or don't, do things. And she was sort of looked at me like, what do you mean stop? I can't stop. I have to find another way.
She was in a lot of physical pain, and because her hands were really bothering her, or she would be in a cast or something like that, she was having to find new ways to work.
Judith and Bill were very supportive, and they said, if you can't do what you want to do what you can do. And I took a page from Judith's studio practice, and I made terracotta casting slip and cast slabs to build with.
She did a whole series of slab works that were kind of cut and folded and painted, and that's the work that she finished with there with her BFA exhibition.
Graduate school was very good to me. It was a 2-year program at RISD. We had our own private studio space, and again, life centered around school. If you weren't at home sleeping or eating, you were probably in studio. I made myself stop doing myolica in grad school. And I thought, well, you should learn what you don't know now. This is your big chance because you're going to be out of school, and you should learn about things that you don't know. By that time also, I'd had surgery on my hands, and so I'd had my carpal tunnel repaired.
I followed her career right when she got out of school, and she went to Philadelphia and got a
job working at the Works Gallery, and so she wanted to keep her own work going, so in her apartment building, there was a basement that had a dirt floor, and she hooked up her wheel down there and was making pots in the grimmest and the darkest situation I'd ever seen. And she somehow stayed with it.
While I was in Philadelphia, I went back to Maiolica. I could throw again, and I went back to making decorated Maiolica because I just love painting and color, and the gallery was kind enough to let me show there.
It was a clay gallery, and she learned a lot about the business, because what's your biggest dilemma is, how can I survive doing what I want to do? Well, you can try and market your work, or you could do some combination. You could teach and do studio work.
And I was down in the packing room under the stairs, which is a little tiny space with just a little bare light bulb. And I got a phone call from Joe Bova at LSU asking me if I wanted to come teach there. And I felt like I'd won the lottery. There were bananas blooming in front of the library, and I thought, I have died and gone to alternative heaven. This is just like being at Disney World. This is so cool. I was just in heaven. It was really like going to another country because of the flora and the fauna being so different.
Oh, LSU was just an amazing program. Both Joe and Linda are, you know, just in the very, very top echelon, you know, intellectually, with a passion for clay. If you're passionate about clay, they will open up their hearts and their resources for you.
They have both kept in touch with all their graduate students and continue to keep in touch with people, their students, as they go out into the world and try to help them.
We met at LSU. I was on sabbatical from the University of Florida. Of course, the joke is that they got this letter from the dean, and they said, oh God, we've got this architect that wants to come and work in ceramics. What are we going to do with him?
We became very close during the year that he was at LSU. He owned this lovely house in the woods, and that was part of his dowry, and by that time he also had a big black dog and a clay studio, and I thought, well, that's good enough for me.
I've always loved fantasy. I'm not trying to tell a literal story, but I'm trying to make a landscape with the figures and things that creates its own little world, its own little fantasy world. I think that's probably one of the things that draws us together, and we share those fantasy lives occasionally, but we're very content to live in our own little fantasy life so that, you know, we can spend Saturday night in the studio for 5 hours, me in my studio, her in hers. We play well by ourselves, and yet we're sharing the same experience in a way.
And I'm going to load my brush with more than one color. So the base color of the leaves is this kind of avocado color. I'm going to put a little chartreuse, maybe a little yellow, zip of turquoise, and I want the tip to be orange. So I'm going to tip just the tip in orange.
I've seen Linda put 3 colors on a brush for a single stroke.
Place the tip and heel down and pull, and turn the brush. Get just a little more orange on there. Place the tip and pull.
It's not just palette, it's a real nuance of application and brushwork as well.
And heel down and pull.
Over time, you look at an object and you simplify down to a few simple brush lines the essence of the object. And it's the essence that Linda sort of connects with really well.
This is where our glazes mature. You know,
Ceramics is an amazing, complex combination of art and science. And they're mutually dependent. You can't produce really good work until you understand both sides.
You don't have it melted into a glass yet. You just have those minerals changed into another form because oxygen is withdrawn from them.
And what Linda has done is researched and researched and researched. She's a good historian. She knows her stuff.
People know they can go to Linda if they have a technical question or an issue. And she gets hundreds of hits a day. Linda's background as a librarian, I really believe, has a lot to do with this idea of giving and giving of information and being willing to give information.
The program here has an incredible sense of community. Linda's planted seeds with listservs, and so we have a way of keeping in contact in amongst ourselves, but then we also have that contact with our alumni and with the greater ceramics community through our listservs. Once they're in our program, they're always a part of our program, and they're always receiving that information that's so critical to being an artist and to helping an artist grow.
I would say that she's a very generous person. She's a very supportive colleague and an excellent educator.
Well, if you were going to do tinted and you wanted a light color, you'd leave the tin in.
When it's all said and done, she acts in the spirit of generosity.
She connects students with opportunities, and she connects artists with artists. She connects people in the field. She'll put people together, and all kinds of things happen. You know, probably marriages, certainly, certainly exhibitions, residencies. People move from one place to the other to do what she says.
Hot Clay is a really wonderful organization, and it's run by the students here at UF, and it supports the ceramics department. HOT is an acronym for hand built or thrown. So the organization is hand built or thrown clay. Hot Clay has a couple of sales a year that help support bringing in visiting artists, and it also supports students going to NCEA.
NCEA is a very interesting organization because it was originally the National Council on Education for the Ceramic Arts, and in a certain way I think it started out with people who were teachers and academic clay artists. And I think that's not necessarily true. I think it's very diverse today.
My personal journey involves a strong need to make things. And my main love in terms of material is clay. For me, making pottery is one of the most exciting, frustrating, and satisfying things that I do. Functional art brings focus, pleasure, and ideas into my daily moments.
I think there's a large part of NCEA that are people who are second career artists in clay.
This is your organization, and we want it to grow and thrive. We want it to help make those same changes that are happening in our studios and the things that we see changing in culture that we're responding to.
There's been this huge upwelling of do-it-yourself. All these people who want to make an imprint, they want to make original work, they want to take something that's familiar and change it, and they want to put their own personality on it.
Extraordinary. That's what she is. Extraordinary artist, extraordinary person, extraordinary teacher.
For me, color is about sometimes happiness, playfulness, indulgence. It reminds me of flowers. I'm capable of being restrained, but I really have to practice it first. It doesn't come naturally.
And she's made clay a more interesting place, and certainly a more colorful one.
Okay, I'm going to put some color. I just love putting color on like that, and to see how much that changes in terms of mood and visuals. I think color, I don't know how people can resist. It's a leap of faith as a career. And I think that's a question everybody has to answer for themselves. I really wouldn't have had it any other way. And I certainly wouldn't have made any different decisions if I got to do it all over again.